Well, it looks like Kentucky basketball's offseason editions have officially come to a halt. And after looking around, seems like the Wildcats have had the best offseason of any team in college basketball.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, going to take a look at Kentucky basketball's offseason, the additions, what else has gone on for UK, and I'll explain why I believe the Wildcats have had the best offseason out of any team in college basketball. Also, on today's episode, CBS Sports released a way too early top 25, and guys, it is so bad that we have to talk about it. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, would love it if you subscribe to the show. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers before the start of the season. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed, and if you haven't yet, join up. It's a very good time. If you're listening on podcast, would love it if you left a review and let me know what you think about the show in the Spotify comments if you are there. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Kentucky basketball, in my opinion, has had the best offseason out of any team. Now, this right here, this conversation we're about to have is not just about the transfer portal rankings, the recruiting class rankings, the staff retention. It's not about one specific aspect of this. So don't come running to me and saying, well, 24/7 Sports says Kentucky only has the fourth best. We're not talking about that. We're talking about just overall, forget the rankings for just a second, okay? Let's just look at the players and look at the facts. This includes vibes, whether or not you still have a coach, whether or not you still have a staff, the players you brought in, the players you lost, everything. I believe Kentucky has had the best offseason out of any program, and the main reason is despite the turnover, despite losing all of these seniors to graduation, losing two players that were not important on your team a season ago to the transfer portal, you were able to bring in, I think, better talent overall, while also still retaining some of your top guys. Otega Dawe and Brandon Garrison are still here. And the roster overall, I think, is better. I wouldn't say significantly improved because the Wildcats were still pretty good a season ago. But as far as improvements do go for Mark Pope and company, they pretty much hit the nail on the head. We talked about this yesterday about how the expectation for Kentucky this season is to win a national championship, and it was a season ago. It felt a little unrealistic then, and I think it's very much so realized now, looking at what the team is on paper. Just think about some of the different players Kentucky has brought in here. The biggest name here, the biggest one out of all of them, is Jayden Quaintance. We need to acknowledge just how bad Kentucky was at two things a season ago and just how much better they are likely going to be at both of those things this season because of one player in JQ. The Wildcats were the worst team in the SEC at defending the rim a season ago. Despite making a Sweet 16, despite finishing above 500 in conference play, despite being a winning program, the Wildcats could not stop anything right at the basket. You have brought in, to solve that problem, the nation's best rim protector. This is not up for debate. This is factual. Jayden Quaintance, at 17 years old, mind you, was the best rim protector in all of college basketball last season at Arizona State. He has now been gifted to Mark Pope and this roster and this staff, mind you. This isn't just Pope. This is everyone here. What could they possibly do with such a gifted young man? I'm very excited to see it. But if we're just speculating here after seeing the way that JQ played in year one, he's going to be a monster. Okay? This is the best defender in the nation. And last year, you couldn't stop anything at the basket. So if you are able to stay good at what you were a season ago, playing with pace, getting to the rim yourself, putting up shots, being above average from three, being a team that fights hard every single play, has a ton of energy, great chemistry. if you're able to keep some of those things afloat while also plugging this massive hole in the ship, this thing ain't just going to float. It's going to cruise. It's going to be awesome for UK. Nobody else in the country gets to say that. No one else in the country gets to say, we brought in the best defender. The Wildcats do. I understand St. John's, Michigan, Louisville, all these teams have had really good transfer portal classes. They brought in some great recruits. They've got some guys that are going to be very good for them and are going to help them in areas that they struggled with a season ago. I'm not disputing that. But as far as individual talents go, to solve a massive issue that you had a season ago, this is perfect for UK. If this is as plug and play as it looks like, the Wildcats will be much more difficult to handle game in and game out if everyone remains healthy. On top of this, you bring in an all-ACC point guard. You don't just stumble upon that. Jaylen Lowe is one of the better assist men in the country a season ago, also racking up steals. You brought in a national champion guard in Denzel Aberdeen. You brought in, according to major outlets, what is a top 10 international prospect. Forget about the numbers here. Just go watch the kid play. He's insane at 6'11". He's played very well during Mega Basket's postseason. You've got all these different prospects coming in, while you also bring back Otega Owe and Brandon Garrison, two very important pieces to your team this season. Why is Brandon Garrison so important? I think he's up for a huge offseason. I think these next few months are going to be big for him in terms of adding more things to his offensive game and becoming more of a weapon on that side of the ball for UK. I think he's going to get better overall as a player, and he's got another year in this system to control this offense. He was getting better as the season went on. There were some really nice passes that he and Amari Williams were dishing out. It wasn't just Amari. Garrison had some solid moments as well. He's only going to be better. Paired with your leading scorer from a season ago that has the clutch factor and is incredible whenever Kentucky needs a bucket. All of these different things combining together. If you are able to maintain your three-point shooting and you are able to maintain at least being average like you were a season ago statistically on defense elsewhere, while also getting much better at protecting the rim, as you are expected to, Wildcats are going to be a really good team. There is not a single team in college basketball that can say they have improved and over the areas that they have struggled with more than the Kentucky Wildcats this offseason. Mark Pope went out and got guys that solve the problem of SEC play. It is perfect. On paper, it is perfect. I'm so excited to see this team. Really quickly, before we move on, I ask you guys to reach out to me. I ask you guys to tell me what you think about the show and what you think about different episodes. There were a couple of you yesterday that were not a fan of me going through and grading every player based on their impact. I think what got lost in the shuffle, first and foremost, and I'm not trying to act like that's the end of the world that you guys disagree with me. I ask you guys to talk and communicate all the time. It's fair. I think what got lost in the shuffle there is I'm not telling you, hey, this kid's good, this kid sucks. I'm saying on paper, this is how impactful they're going to be this season for the Wildcats on their roster. I think that JQ and Andrea Yelovich and Jaylen Lowe, Cam Williams, those are going to be some of the more impactful guys. It doesn't mean they're the best, and the example that I gave was Braden Hawthorne's probably not going to play much, if at all, this season, and yet you're going to look up a year and a half from now, he's going to be one of the best players in the SEC. It's all about impact. It's not about how good are you. If we were going through ranking how good each player was, the list would look dramatically different. The grades would look dramatically different. One of you, I think, said you should have used like 1 through 10. I think that's a moot point. I don't think it matters. It's about the point was, it wasn't about how good are you. It's about how impactful are you going to be on this roster this season as newcomers. And I think it's very fair to say that some guys are going to be more impactful than others. Not everybody's going to average 15 and 10 every single night. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have guys that play less minutes. You're going to have guys that step on the court less. And you're going to have guys that have skill sets and things that they do that are more impactful game in and game out than others. And it doesn't mean that they're better per se. Some guy could be coming off the bench shooting 46% from three, and he's the best three-point shooter on this roster, but you got a guy that plays over him that's just a more well-rounded prospect. Doesn't mean he's necessarily better, just mean you've got different guys that you can rotate in and out that are maybe more or less impactful. And here's the funny thing about this. There wasn't a ton of like disparity like between the guys that we know are going to play and that aren't at the same time, right? Like all of the guys that Kentucky brought in like are good players. It's just some of them are going to play, some of them aren't. And the guys that are going to play, they're all going to be very impactful to some level. All of them are. No duh. It's something that to go back and realize, like Jasper's going to be great. Cam's going to be great. Yelovich is going to be great. Like the guys that are going to play, because of how high their floors are, respectively, everyone's going to be impactful. It's just that I'm super excited about some of these guys because they you. How can you not be excited? The most excited about JQ. How can you not be the most excited about a guy like Yelovich? These guys are going to be so fun. I will say, the one thing I will not push back on is one of you did hit me on Twitter, which, by the way, at LockedOnUK on Twitter is where you can find me. One of you did say that you didn't think it was fair that Reese Potter got an F, and your point was that Potter will make an impact in practice. He will make this team better because of how good of a player he is in practice. And I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. F is too harsh. That doesn't necessarily mean that I think he's going to be more impactful than if we're going off a grading system, again, like a D, because, again, he's not on the floor. How impactful can you be unless you're actually out there playing the game yourself? There is a limitation to that. I think that's very fair to say. So I do think that it's too harsh on maybe some of the players that aren't going to play, which I think there's only like two, Hawthorne and Potter. And we know the long-term prospect for Hawthorne. I've gassed him up. I think he's going to be awesome. So I think some of it's fair, and some of it's like, we got to realize this is not me saying how good or bad they are. This is saying, what will you contribute to this team this season? And I think all of them will have an incredible impact to some degree. It's just more some than others. That's a very realistic expectation. You can't sit here and tell me that Ainsley Almanor was more impactful than Andrew Carr was a season ago. It doesn't mean he was a better player. Almanor was objectively the better shooter. He was a better offensive weapon. But he struggled on defense. There's a give and take with a lot of these guys. That was just my thought. I do really appreciate that, like, the thoughts and comments. And this is not me being like, oh, you said something mean, so I'm upset. No, I think everything that you're saying is very fair. It's just like we need to understand where we're coming from before we start saying something's awful or sucks or you're an idiot, which none of you said, just to be clear. It's all about just creating healthy online discourse, which I'm very close to putting something together about that, which is why this is kind of like prevalent in my mind about like how sports fans, not you guys, how sports fans in general handle their teams respectfully on the internet, or disrespectfully on the internet, I guess I might say. It's very fascinating. I think we here at Locked On Kentucky, like it's pretty healthy freaking environment. Like a lot of us have very fair things to say, whether we agree or disagree. And look, there's going to be a lot of discourse here over the course of the offseason about like who starts, who won't, how will the rotations play out, who's going to score what, how many points. The best thing that we get to look forward to is that we're going to get answers to that, which is super exciting. So I will continue along. Let's talk about CBS Sports and their top 25, which is just so bad. We got to talk about it. Before we do it, though, I'll tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Of course, the NBA playoffs are winding down. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts. If you've been watching the playoffs, you know that is certainly true. And can't miss moments as well. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And guys, we have at least one more game of the Eastern Conference Finals here coming up, and I am thrilled. As somebody who's supporting the Knicks, I think it's going to be super fun. Right now, if you're looking at different things that you could possibly go over to FanDuel for, I think that you have to start looking at Cat, Brunson, and Tyrese Halliburton. A lot of you guys may have strong opinions about whether or not you're going to take over or under on some of those props that are out there, whether it be assist, points. I think Brunson is exhausted right now. I'll just say that. We'll see what happens, but there's a lot to dive into over on FanDuel. If you're new, right now is the perfect time to sign up, especially with the NBA Finals just around the corner. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. You can make every moment more with FanDuel. It's an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, continuing along here on the Friday edition of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. Again, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so. Thank you guys so much. For those of you that have been watching, that have subscribed, that have commented, I want to hear the discourse. I want to hear your opinion, whether you agree or disagree. It is all fun here. It's just, at the end of the day, it's just a little college basketball, which is the best sport on the planet, in my opinion. All right. And then you got people like CBS Sports who, sometimes I wonder if some of these national sites are doing one of two things. Are they trying to rage bait people into a reaction, or are they just genuinely that ignorant to what's happening in the sport? And, you can make the case for this top 25. You can absolutely do that. In my opinion, it's bad. It's not good at all. And the more upsetting thing about this is that every single blurb about each team is like copy and paste. This ranking is based on the Red Storm returning one of the top two scores, specifically this guy, from a team that finished with this record and went to this in the NCAA tournament. These are the players that are going to be returning, and these are the players that they added. It is just copy and paste for every single team. There's no nuance. There's no thought process. There's no creativity in the way that you talk. This sucks. In my opinion, it sucks. We can do better than this. And I don't necessarily even want to put this on the writer of the article, Gary Parrish, because I don't know if this is necessarily like his design of like, yeah, this is how I want to do it. I want to copy paste everything and just blah, 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 blah. Or if it's just like this is how the network wants him to put it out there. So I'm not going to sit here and bash the author. I think Gary Parrish is great at what he does. It's just this is not great. So we'll start here with the top 25. This is after LeBaron Philon, by the way, announced at the very last moment that he would be coming back to Alabama for another season with the Crimson Tide, which is big for them. The SEC, man, talk about a change in my opinion. The SEC is bringing back some really important guys that have just withdrawn from the NBA draft that have said, screw it, I'm coming back to college. They've got extra eligibility. They're going to run it back for another 1, 2, 3 years. Who knows? This is very good for the sport. This is great. This is great news for college basketball. But after LeBaron Philon withdrew from the NBA draft, this article was tossed up on CBS Sports, and the number one team in the nation, and apparently this has been the number one team in the nation on their top 25 for a while, is St. John's. I don't get this. I don't understand. According to Parrish, this ranking is based on the Red Storm returning Zuby Ejiofor, and then you also have Ian Jackson, Providence transfer, former Kentucky Wildcat Bryce Hopkins, Josen Sannon from Arizona State, Dylan Mitchell from Cincinnati, Osiah Sellers from Stanford, Idaho State, Dylan Darling, NAIA transfer, Hanjay Tamba, international prospect, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, and four-star freshman Kevin, I think it's Ode? I don't know how to pronounce anything, apparently, on the show. But one thing I can tell you is that you lose some of the major pieces from last season, and just because you bring in a hodgepodge of transfers doesn't necessarily mean that you're deserving of the number one overall ranking over some of these other teams that I feel like have more going for them. Ian Jackson was insanely inconsistent at North Carolina. Somebody I think that would have been fun in a Kentucky jersey. Let's not get this twisted. I talked about him like he was awesome. But at the same time, let's acknowledge, is this worthy of a number one overall ranking? Bryce Hopkins and Ian Jackson coming in with a four-star freshman and an international prospect. Dylan Mitchell was not that great at Cincinnati. I mean, I understand that this is Rick Pitino, and it's a coach that we love. At the same time, is this... I don't know, man. And Mitchell's not like a versatile prospect either. I don't get it. Zuby is good, but like this team, it's clear. Like the players that were on this team were flops in the NCAA tournament. They couldn't handle better teams. Is that really deserving of a number one? I think that this is probably a top 10 team, top 7 squad. But there are so many other teams here that I would throw up at number 1 before I put St. John's there. That's just my opinion. I think you could make the case for, honestly, the best case you can make is the number 2 team here, which is Houston. They bring 3 of their top 7 scorers back, specifically Sharp, Uzan, Tugler, all 3 instrumental in that NCAA tournament run. They've got 5-star freshman Chris Senack Jr., who is a dog. Isaiah Harwell is great. Kingston Flemings is great. You also got, I think, Khalifa, I think it's Seiko, who is Sam Houston's center, who you want to go watch Lamar Wilkerson's highlights and then go watch this kid, the kid that committed to Houston, him play alongside him. That kid's fun, dude. That kid's dunking everything he saw. Houston, I think, is the best team in the nation to start the season. I would have them number 1. BYU is fine at 3. I would have them at 2. I think they're deserving of a top 5 preseason ranking. Saunders, Dawson Baker, Kita, they've got different guys off the bench that were big. Robert Wright is in here from Baylor. You've also got somebody like Dominique Diamande, from Washington. You've also, of course, got AJ DeBansta. This is a stacked team that is going to be really, 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 really good in the Big 12. Big 12 leading the charge, I think, in college basketball this year, by the way. Just to throw that out there. It's going to be them in the SEC. It's going to be much closer than it was a season ago. They have Purdue at number 4, which I'm not mad at. I would have them outside my top 5. UConn at number 5. UConn is not a top 10 team. They're not. Okay, awesome. You have Solo Ball back. You have Alex Caravan back. Terrace Reed, Jalen Stewart. And then you brought in Silas Demery, an inefficient guard. Malachi Smith. Braylon Mullins, Eric Ryby, and Jacob Ross. This team's not going to play defense. That's the problem. They're not going to play defense. And if they play a little bit better, sure, awesome. That's not deserving of a top 5 ranking. This is a top 15 team. This is not a top 5 team, especially over the reigning national champion Florida Gators at number 6. Think about this. They're bringing back Chinyelu, Haw, Condon, Clavzar, Hanglotten. They have guys like Boogie Flandon, Xavier Lee in their backcourt. Freshmen like CJ Ingram and Alex Lloyd. This is a great team. This is a top 5 team. You got them behind the Huskies? Really? The team that they beat in the NCAA tournament? I know the teams are different, but still. This makes no sense to me whatsoever. No sense at all. Texas Tech at 7 is fine. I would have them lower just because of the fact that they don't bring back Darren Williams. Michigan, I think, is fine at 8. Michigan's going to be good. I think Duke should be much higher than 9 because the Boozer twins are great, and then Evans and Foster are going to be awesome. They've also brought in Dame Sarr, who I really, really badly wanted at Kentucky. I think that Duke, you can make a strong case for them being like the number 4 or 5 team in the country, just in my opinion. I'll tell you guys my top 25 in a second. UCLA at 10, fine. I'm not mad at that. Arizona at 11. Arizona was not that great a season ago relative to some of the top teams in college basketball. I think somewhere between the 10 and 15 is fine. And here's where I am just bewildered. Kentucky comes in at number 12. Number 12. One of the best freshman classes in the nation. One of the best portal classes in the nation. A stud international prospect in Yelovich. This is a top 10 team. This is, in my opinion, it's a top 5 team, but I'm biased. This is an insanely low ranking for Kentucky. Preseason. To be under somebody like UConn, to be under a team like UCLA, to be under a team like Arizona, I don't get that. I don't get it. Iowa State at 13. Bama jumps 10 spots to 14. Louisville is 15th. Michigan State is 16th. Oregon is 17th. Kansas, who I think should be hanging on by a thread to the top 25, is number 18. Auburn is number 19. Arkansas is 20th. I think they should be higher. Gonzaga is 21st. Tennessee is 22nd. Texas is 23rd. Shouldn't be in the top 25, period, in my opinion. And then you've also got Illinois in the top 25. I think they should be much higher. Wisconsin and Ohio State should not be ranked. This is not a great top 25, guys. There are some teams that are just out of place. So you may say, Lance, how would you do it? This is how I would do my top 25 right now. And maybe you guys tear me apart in the comments. Who knows? I think Houston should be number 1. I think BYU is my number 2 preseason team. I am just high on BYU. I know some of you are going to disagree with that. It's okay. I'm very high on BYU because of just how good DeBansta is going to be. Saunders is great. They've got great front court pieces. They're bringing in some interesting transfers. This is a very good team. This is the 1-2 in the Big 12 until further notice. Florida is my number 3. I think they should be top 5 at minimum heading into the season. Duke is number 4. Kentucky is number 5. I think Houston, BYU, Florida, Duke, Kentucky, those are the best teams in college basketball heading into the season, and then there is a slight drop-off. Purdue is number 6. St. John's is number 7. Michigan is number 8. Could possibly have them higher than St. John's. UCLA is number 9. Texas Tech is number 10. Alabama, who I think deserves to be higher than where they were in the CBS Sports rankings, is number 11, just because of how good of a coach Nate Oates is. And some other players that they're bringing back, might add. Louisville is number 12. I think Louisville's going to be very good this season. Iowa State is number 13. By the way, guys, just because we have rivalries with some of these teams doesn't mean we can't be objective. We have to look at the rosters and be able to be honest. Like, hey, these are good teams. These are not so good teams. I think that, frankly, Duke, Florida, Bama, Louisville, I think all those teams are going to be great. Tennessee, on the other hand, we'll get to. Let's see. Iowa State, number 13. UConn, number 14. This is not a top 5 team. Get out of here with that. Arizona at number 15. Arizona was the only team in this list that I didn't really know where to put them, so I put them at 15. Arkansas at 16. They're a little bit higher than maybe CBS Sports thinks. Honestly, you could probably put them a little higher if you wanted to with that. Illinois is number 17. Illinois needed to be higher than where they were in CBS. Indiana is number 18. Newsflash, guys. Indiana's going to be a pretty good team. They're going to be a top 25 squad. They brought in a ton of transfer portal additions, one of which that they stole from UK, and Lamar Wilkerson. This is a very good team with a good coach. Do not sleep. Going to have Jacob Goins on the show here soon to cross over and talk about how good these teams are going to be and preview what should be an epic clash in Rupp Arena later this year. Gonzaga is number 19. Gonzaga, get out of here. I don't care. Auburn is number 20. Oregon is number 21. They bring back Nate Biddle. They should be pretty good. Michigan State is number 22. They bring back a plethora of teams from that team that squad that made a deep run in the NCAA tournament a season ago. Got bounced by the Tigers. Number 23 is Tennessee. I didn't really want to put Tennessee in my top 25 because I'm a hater, but I did. Number 24 is NC State. Do not sleep, and I repeat, don't sleep on Will Wade and the Wolfpack. They should be ranked to start the year. This is going to be a very good team. They got some really good pieces, y'all. Got some really good pieces. And they just kept piling in. Why they are not ranked in CBS Sports Top 25 is beyond me. I could put them a little higher. Depending on the day, they should be ranked. Especially over teams like Ohio State and Wisconsin. Kansas rounds out the top 25 for me, and I didn't feel good about it. I didn't feel great. Put somebody like Ole Miss here if you wanted to. I don't care. This is a bad top 25, but what I will say to wrap up the show is that this is going to be a great year for college basketball. There's some really good teams that have brought back some really good pieces, some talented freshmen coming in, the Boozer Twins, DeBansta. This is going to be a great year, man. There may be turnover, but the depth and the talent of some of these squads, I think it's going to be maintained. I think you could also think about putting Maryland in. I think that Texas A&M might be somebody you have a conversation about, maybe. Villanova is another squad you have to at least consider. I'll be pulling for a Caden Lewis. But yeah, that's where I have things. Marquette not being in the top 25 is kind of crazy, but I think they've lost quite a bit. Creighton not being in the top 25 is also interesting. Got some Big East teams that are just not here. USC is another squad because they had such a good portal cycle. I don't know. Don't sleep on LSU as well. Also, I don't know if they're a top 25 team, but that's just anyway. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. Follow me on Twitter at @LanceDawe_. Follow the show over on Instagram. That's our Kentucky podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns? Leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.